You know that feeling. You're sitting in the parking lot of the grocery store, or you're at your desk, halfway through a Tuesday afternoon, and your phone buzzes. It's your bank app. And before you even unlock the screen, before you even read a single word, your stomach already knows. Your body already knows. It's not good news. Maybe it's an overdraft notice. Maybe it's a balance that went lower than you thought. Maybe it's a payment you forgot about hitting at the exact wrong time. Again, that buzz, that specific buzz from that specific app, it hits different when you're living close to the edge. It's like a jump scare in a horror movie, except it's not a movie. It's your life, and it happens on a Tuesday. And there's no credits at roll. You just have to figure it out. I want you to know something before we go any further. If that feeling is familiar to you, you are not alone. You are not bad with money. You are not a failure. And you are definitely not the only person sitting in that parking lot, staring at that notification, wondering how you got here and how you get out. Here are the numbers. According to recent Federal Reserve data, 24% of American adults have zero emergency savings. None. Not a little. Zero. And nearly 40% of Americans say they cannot cover a $400 emergency without borrowing money or selling something. $400. That's a tire. That's a copay. That's the week your kid's school says they need money for something you forgot about. That's a Tuesday. A normal, unremarkable Tuesday that becomes a crisis because there was no buffer between you and it. And here's what I've learned, and what I want to spend the next 45 minutes talking through with you. The reason most people never build an emergency fund isn't laziness. It's not a lack of discipline. It's not that they don't care. It's that everything they've been told about saving money assumes they already have extra money to save. Save 3 to 6 months of expenses. Okay, from what? Pay yourself first. Great. After which bill? Just cut back on lattes. I don't even buy lattes. The advice is designed for a version of your life that doesn't exist yet. And so you wait. You wait until things are a little more stable, a little less tight, until the next raise, until after the holidays, until after the car gets fixed. And nothing changes, because nothing was ever going to change by waiting. So here's the real challenge I want to leave you with before we get into the plan. You don't build an emergency fund after you get your life together. You build one so you can get your life together. That's what the next 60 days are about. Let's talk about Maya. Maya is 29. She works in healthcare administration. She brings home about $2,800 a month after taxes. She has a car payment, a credit card she's been carrying a balance on for 2 years, rent, utilities, and a streaming service she keeps meaning to cancel. She has $47 in her savings account. She's not reckless. She's not irresponsible. She's just been running at full speed with no runway. Maya is going to walk through this plan with us. And 60 days from now, you're going to see exactly what is possible, even from where she's starting. All right, let's get into it. Before we talk about what to do, we need to talk about what's happening in your head. Because here's something that most financial advice skips entirely. Your brain, when it's under financial stress, is not functioning the same way it does when things are comfortable. This is not a metaphor. This is neuroscience. When you're worried about money, when you're constantly calculating whether your account will make it to the next paycheck, when every purchase involves a small internal negotiation, you are operating in what researchers call scarcity mode. And here's what scarcity mode does to your brain. It narrows your focus intensely and almost entirely to the immediate problem in front of you. Researchers Sendhil Mulathan and Eldar Shaffer studied this in their book Scarcity, and what they found was remarkable. People who are poor, financially poor, perform worse on cognitive tasks not because they're less intelligent, but because their mental bandwidth is consumed by the constant management of financial stress. They're spending cognitive resources on calculations that wealthier people never have to make. Think about that. If you're constantly calculating, can I afford gas? If I buy groceries today, will that overdraft the account before Friday? Should I pay the minimum on the card? Or hold that cash in case something comes up? You are burning mental energy that other people are spending on literally other things. Planning, strategizing, sleeping well. Scarcity mode also makes you more likely to reach for short-term relief. Not because you're weak, because your brain is trying to survive. The small comfort purchase, the fast food run, the impulse buy that feels like relief for about 20 minutes, is your brain seeking a tiny emotional reset in the middle of a long, grinding financial squeeze. And then you feel guilty about it. And the guilt makes the stress worse. And the stress makes the next comfort purchase more likely. This is a trap. This is what I want you to understand before anything else. Because I'll tell you this, and I mean it sincerely. Telling someone who is in scarcity mode to just save 20% is like telling someone who is drowning to try swimming better. It's not wrong, exactly. Swimming better would help, but it's not the point. The point is they need something to grab onto first. Morgan Housel, who wrote The Psychology of Money, one of the most honest books ever written about personal finance, said something that stopped me in my tracks when I first read it. He said, "Doing well with money has little to do with how smart you are and a lot to do with how you behave. Not intelligence. Behavior. That matters because behavior is shaped by environment. Behavior is shaped by system. And that means behavior can be changed, even under pressure, if you build the right structure around it. That's what the next 60 days are about. Not intelligence. Not discipline as a character trait. Just behavior. Just systems." So what happened to Maya in scarcity mode? She'd get her paycheck, feel a brief moment of relief, pay the bills that were most urgent, and then spend the next 2.5 weeks slowly watching her account drain. By day 12, she was already calculating whether she could hold off on filling the tank until Friday. She bought coffee more often when things were tightest, not less, because a $4 coffee was one of the only things that felt like a choice she could make. A small act of control in a situation that felt largely out of control. She knew, logically, she should save. She wanted to. She just didn't know how to want it badly enough to actually do it when the stress was real. That changes now. Not because Maya suddenly got more disciplined, because she's going to build a different environment. Here's a principle I want you to tattoo somewhere in your brain. Willpower is not a strategy. Environment is. This is the most important thing I'm going to say in this entire video, and I want you to hear it clearly. Willpower depletes. Studies going back to Roy Baumeister's research on ego depletion show that the ability to resist temptation and make effortful decisions is a finite resource. The more decisions you make in a day, the more times you have to consciously override an impulse, delay gratification, or exert self-control, the harder it gets as the day goes on. That means willpower is least available to you exactly when you need it most. When you're tired, stressed, financially squeezed, and a purchase that would feel good is right in front of you. The solution is not to try harder. The solution is to need willpower less. You do that by changing your environment so the right behavior is the default, the easy, automatic thing, and the harmful behavior requires effort. This is how the best personal finance systems are designed, not around heroic acts of discipline, around frictionless defaults. So here's move 1. And I want you to do this today, not tomorrow. Today, open a separate savings account, not in the same bank that your checking account is in, if you can help it. The slight inconvenience of moving money between two different institutions creates friction, the helpful kind of friction. That makes it harder to impulsively spend what's in that account. If your savings are one tap away in the same app as your checking account, they're too accessible. You'll dip into them. Everyone does. Once you've opened it, rename that account. Many online banks, SoFi, Ally, Marcus, Capital One 360, let you give accounts nicknames. Name yours something that feels like a wall. Do not touch. Emergency fund works great. Some people use something more personal. Whatever creates a psychological barrier for you. The name matters. It creates a commitment device in your own mind. Now hide it. If your main bank app lets you reorder or hide accounts from the home screen, do that. Out of sight reduces out of mind spending. Now, and this is the part most people get wrong, set up an automatic transfer. And I want you to make an amount that feels almost embarrassingly small. $3 a day, $5 a day, $10 every Friday. Something that when you look at it, you think, that can't possibly matter. That's the point. You are not trying to save a significant amount of money in the first week. You are trying to build a habit. You're trying to get your brain to stop treating saving as an exceptional, heroic act and start treating it as just what happens automatically in the background, like a subscription, except this one pays you. The behavioral science here is important. James Clear, in Atomic Habits, explains that the most powerful habits are those that require zero decision-making in the moment. Once you set up the automatic transfer, saving becomes a default. You don't decide to save. It already happened. You work with what's left. Small automatic transfers also create something deeply powerful that I want to put a name on: proof of movement. When you've been stuck in scarcity mode, when saving has felt impossible for months or years, your brain starts to believe it's impossible. It becomes part of your financial identity. I'm just not the kind of person who saves. I've tried and it doesn't work. The first time you check that emergency fund account and see $15 in it, $15 you put there automatically without effort, without drama, something shifts. Not a lot, but something. That $15 is proof that the system worked. That proof is worth more than the $15. Now, the target we're working toward, and I'll explain the reasoning, is $600, not 3 months of expenses, not 6 months, $600. Here's why. The Federal Reserve's data shows that the most common emergencies that push people into debt are what I call Tuesday problems. They're not catastrophic. They're not job loss or major illness. Those are real emergencies too, but they come later in the journey. Tuesday problems are a flat tire, an urgent care visit, the utility bill that spiked because of the cold snap, the school expense you forgot about. Most of these land between $200 and $600. And $600, for most people at this stage of the journey, is a buffer that turns a crisis into an inconvenience. Not perfect, not a full safety net. But the difference between going into credit card debt and not going into credit card debt, that's the goal. $600 in 60 days. Let's check in with Maya. She opened an Ally savings account the same evening. She decided she was doing this. She named it Emergency Only Do Not. She set up a $5 a day automatic transfer from her checking account. It hits every morning at 7 a.m., so she doesn't even think about it during the day. She said it out loud to herself in the car, and it felt ridiculous, $5. But she set it up, and it's running. And that's day one. All right, the account is open. The automatic transfer is running. Now we're going to go hunting. Week one is a sprint. It's high energy, high focus, and the goal is simple. Find $100 that already exists somewhere in your life that you can redirect into fund, not earn $100. Find $100. The difference matters. Because when you're starting from close to zero, the first win needs to feel achievable. And it is achievable, more achievable than most people think. Because most of us have a certain amount of quiet financial bleed happening in the background that we've stopped noticing. Let's go find it. Step 1. Cancel one thing. Open your bank app or credit card statement. Go back 60 days. Scroll through every charge. I want you to look specifically for recurring charges, things that hit monthly, quietly, automatically, that you either forgot about or are no longer using at full value. The subscription audit is not new advice. But here's what people miss. It's not about finding the big obvious one. It's about finding the invisible one. The app you downloaded during COVID that you still technically pay $9.99 a month for. The upgraded cloud storage plan you never actually needed. The second music streaming service that you share a household account for anyway. The gym membership at the location you haven't been to since you changed jobs. The stock trading app with a premium subscription. The news site you read 3 articles on and then forgot about. These are real. They're in most people's statement. And at this stage of the game, $10 a month is not nothing. It's $120 a year. It's 2 weeks of that $5 a day automatic transfer. Cancel it, not later. Today. Step 2, the 48-hour pause rule. This one is behavioral, and it's one of the most powerful tools in the toolkit for breaking the impulse spending cycle. Here's the rule. For any non-essential purchase, you wait 48 hours before buying it. Not forever. Not think about whether you really need it, because that kind of open-ended questioning creates anxiety and resentment, and you'll abandon it in a week. Just 48 hours. A specific, defined waiting period. What happens in 48 hours? A few things. 1, most of the time, the urgency dissolves. The thing that felt like a need at 9 p.m. on a Wednesday feels optional by Friday morning. That's not willpower. That's just time creating perspective. 2, if you still want after 48 hours, it probably has enough genuine value that you should consider it. The rule isn't about deprivation. It's about breaking the impulse loop. 3, it creates a moment of agency. Instead of reacting, seeing something, wanting it, buying it, you're choosing. That shift from reactive to intentional is exactly the kind of behavioral change that compounds over time. Set a reminder if you need to. 48-hour check for whatever you're going to buy. If you still want it Friday, you can revisit. Most of the time, you won't. Step 3, the weekend mission. This one's for the first weekend of the plan. I want you to find one thing, one physical object you own that you can sell for at least $20. Not a garage sale, not a complicated eBay listing. One item sold through Facebook Marketplace or offer up this weekend. Old headphones, a pair of shoes you haven't worn in a year, A textbook from a class you finished, a piece of exercise equipment that has become a clothes hanger, a video game you completed, a kitchen gadget still in the box. You have something. I promise you have something. The goal here isn't the money, or rather, it's not only the money. The goal is proof of movement. Here's what I mean. When you're in scarcity mode, your financial situation can feel immovable, static, like it's just the way things are. The act of taking a photo of something, posting it, getting a response, meeting someone, handing it over, and receiving cash, that chain of events creates the feeling of agency. It creates the feeling that you are someone who does things to change their situation. That feeling, that identity shift from passive to active, is extraordinarily valuable at the start of this kind of plan. It builds momentum. And momentum is what gets you through week 3 when things get tedious. So, sell something this weekend, even if it's only $20, especially if it's only $20. That $20 goes directly into the emergency fund account. Do not pass go. Let's check in with Maya. Maya did her subscription audit on day 3. She found a $7.99 app subscription she had no memory of, a $14.99 streaming service she shared with her ex and apparently never canceled. And she was able to drop her cloud storage down from the middle tier to the free tier since she hadn't actually needed the space. Total monthly savings from 1 hour of work, $29.98 a month. She canceled all 3 on the spot. She sold a nearly new set of wireless earbuds on Facebook Marketplace for $35 on Saturday. She'd been holding on to them because she thought she might use them again. She didn't. They were just sitting in a drawer, being theoretically useful. She added the 48-hour rule as a sticky note on her phone case. Embarrassingly low-tech, completely effective. By the end of week 1, between the auto transfer and the marketplace sale, Maya has $70 in her emergency fund. Not $100, but close. And more importantly, she's moving. By the end of week 1, you've made your first moves. Good. Now we're going deeper, because the subscription audit is just the surface. The real money, the money that most people don't realize they're spending, is hiding inside the ordinary, everyday, unremarkable spending that doesn't feel like a decision because it barely feels like anything. I call it death by 1,000 swipes. Here's how it works. You don't have a $400 a month takeout problem. You have a $12 problem on Monday, and a $9 problem on Wednesday, and a $14 problem on Saturday, and a $7 convenience store stop on Thursday because you were tired and needed something quick. And before you've done anything that felt extravagant, you've spent $42 in a week on food that wasn't planned expense. That's $168 a month. And that's a conservative example. The math works like this. If you can identify and redirect just $51 per week in these kinds of invisible spending leaks, food delivery fees, convenience stops, vending machines, grabbing something at the checkout because it was there, that's $204 in the first 30 days. Over 60 days, that's over $400 moving toward your fund. You didn't get a raise. You didn't pick up extra shifts. You just stopped bleeding in the small places. Now, the tool for finding those leaks is what I call the 3-category check. Here's how it works. Go through your last 2 weeks of spending, bank statement, credit card, whatever you use, every single charge. And for each one, you assign it one of 3 labels. Must, maybe, or mess. Must is non-negotiable. Rent, utilities, medication, gas to get to work, groceries, real groceries, the kind you planned, phone bill. These don't move. These are the foundation. Maybe is judgment territory. Maybe is the slightly nicer version of something you needed anyway. The coffee shop instead of home coffee. The delivery fee on groceries because you were exhausted. The slightly more expensive convenience store visit because you were in a hurry. Maybe isn't evil, but it's where most of the opportunity lives. Mess is anything that, when you look at it, produces a feeling of mild confusion about why you spend it. The impulse buy, the thing you don't remember, the double charge on the service you forgot you had. Mess is not a moral failure. Mess is just evidence that you haven't been paying attention. And now you are. You're not trying to eliminate all the maybes. You're not trying to live with zero friction or zero comfort. You're trying to identify a few maybes per week that redirected fund the goal. And here's the key insight. You only need $51 a week. $51 a week in redirected maybes and eliminated messes gives you $408 over 8 weeks. Add the auto transfer, add the marketplace sale, and you're at your $600 goal before day 60. This isn't extreme. This isn't giving up everything you enjoy. This is just paying attention for 60 days in a way you haven't been. Maya's 3-category check turned up 2 big mess categories she hadn't consciously noticed. Food delivery fees. Not the food itself. She knew she was spending on food, but the fees and tips on top. She'd been averaging about $22 a week in fees and tips on delivery orders. She didn't need to stop ordering food. She just started picking up instead of having it delivered when it was practical and cooking twice a week on Sunday evening. So there was less desperation-driven delivery during the week and convenience store visits on her lunch break at work. Small stuff. A drink here, a snack there. About $15 a week she hadn't thought of as spending, just as existing. She started keeping a water bottle and a couple of snacks in her locker. Combined, $37 a week in redirected spending, plus her $5 daily auto transfer. She's running a real number now. Everything we've talked about so far is defense, managing what goes out, auditing leaks, redirecting spending. Now I want to briefly shift to offense, because for some people, even after doing all of the above, the math is still tight, and there's a ceiling on how much you can save by cutting. But the ceiling on income, even temporarily, is higher. I'm not talking about a second job forever. I'm talking about a targeted sprint for 60 days with a specific dollar goal. Here are 2 concrete offense moves. Move 1. Request extra hours at your current job. Not vaguely, specifically. Go to your manager or HR and say, I have a personal financial goal I'm working toward. I'm available for extra shifts or overtime for the next 4 to 6 weeks. Is there anything available? A specific professional, time-bounded ask. Not, I could use more hours sometime. That gets lost. A real ask with a real time frame. 1 extra shift a week at even $12 an hour for 6 hours is $72. Over 8 weeks, that's $576. That alone could get you to the goal on its own. Move 2. 1 weekend side gig with a specific goal. Not a business. Not a side hustle that requires startup costs and a brand and a website. A weekend. 1 weekend. With a goal of $150. TaskRabbit for a furniture assembly job. Offering a lawn mowing or leaf blowing service to 3 neighbors. Helping someone move on a Saturday morning. Doing a deep clean for someone you know who's been meaning to hire a cleaner. Walking dogs for a weekend while someone's away. These are real things that real people pay for. And 1 weekend of concrete labor for a $150 goal is an entirely achievable sprint. Now, here's the bonus move that people almost always overlook. Call one provider. Pick one. Your internet company, your cell phone carrier, your insurance provider. Call them and say these exact words. I've been a customer for X years. I'm reviewing my budget, and I'm wondering if there are any promotions, loyalty discounts, or lower tier plans available to me. That's it. That's the whole script. Studies consistently show that a significant percentage of customers who call and simply ask for a lower rate get one. Companies would rather keep you at a lower margin than lose you entirely. If you get even $20 a month off your internet or phone bill, that's $40 going into a fund over 60 days. For a 10-minute phone call, $20 a month saved, by the way, is $240 a year. Compounded over years, it matters. Maya called her phone carrier on day 18. She'd been on the same plan for 4 years without ever looking at alternatives. The representative moved her to a plan that cost $18 less per month with essentially identical service. She literally said, I didn't know I could do that. You can always ask. Before we close out the 60-day plan, I need to spend a few minutes on something that derails more people than any spending leak or subscription ever will. The fund has to stay a fund. And that means we need to be precise, not harsh, but precise about what actually counts as an emergency. Here is my working definition. An emergency is something that threatens your health, your housing, your utilities, or your transportation to income. That's it. 4 categories: health, housing, utilities, transportation to income. Medical bill you can't delay. Emergency fund. Rent that's genuinely in jeopardy. Emergency fund. Utilities about to be shut off. Emergency fund. Car repair that you need to get to work. Emergency fund. Now here's what is not emergency, as much as it may feel like one in the moment. A sale on something you've been wanting. A social event you want to attend that you weren't budgeting for. A travel opportunity that came up suddenly. A purchase that would be smart or useful, but that you were managing fine without. a deal that expires. These are real things that feel urgent, but they are not emergency. They are opportunities. And opportunities are not what this fund is for. The reason I'm drawing this line clearly is because the hardest thing about having an emergency fund, once you build one, is leaving it alone. There will be moments when it feels incredibly reasonable to dip in, when there's a justification forming in your head that sounds like good logic. That's normal. That's going to happen. So you need a pre-committed answer for those moments. And the answer is health, housing, utilities, transportation to income. If it's not one of those four, it can wait for the next paycheck or be addressed through another means. Now, here's the other rule, the one that applies when you do need to use the fund. It's called the replace first rule. The moment you spend from the emergency fund for a genuine emergency, the very next financial goal you have is not vacation. It's not a new phone. It's not that thing you've been putting off. It is to refill what you spent, dollar for dollar, before anything else. This is non-negotiable if you want the fund to actually function as a safety net. Because a safety net that gets repurposed becomes a checking account. And a checking account is not a safety net. Replace first, then continue on with everything else. And before I close out the plan, I want to come back to the 24-10 rule for a moment. We opened this video with a horror movie buzz of the bank notification. And I used the example of a car making a noise you've been hoping will go away on its own. For the future, for when this fund is built and you're thinking about the next financial step, there's a simple framework for car purchases that prevents a lot of Tuesday problems before they start. Do not buy a car that costs more than 10% of your annual gross income. If you earn $40,000 a year, your car should cost no more than $4,000. If you earn $60,000, no more than $6,000. And do not spend more than 24% of your monthly take-home on all car-related expenses combined: payment, insurance, gas, and maintenance. This isn't about driving a terrible car. It's about not letting a car become the reason you never build wealth. Maya's car is old. She knows. She's going to keep it running and maintain it. She is not buying a new car until her emergency fund is built and her credit card is paid off. The car is fine. The plan is better. I want to tell you about a janitor from Vermont named Ronald Red. Ronald Red died in 2014 at the age of 92. He spent most of his working life as a janitor and a gas station attendant. He drove an old car. He wore a coat held together with a safety pin. He lived simply and quietly. When he died, his estate was valued at $8 million. He left $4.8 million to the local hospital and $1.2 million to the local library. The financial world was stunned. How does a janitor accumulate $8 million? He didn't do anything exotic. He didn't pick winning stocks through genius. He didn't inherit money. He didn't launch a business. He just saved consistently for decades and let compounding do its work. Ronald Reed is the most important person in personal finance that almost nobody knows about. Not because his outcome is what we're chasing right now. We're chasing $600, but because of what his story tells us about what actually builds wealth. It's not income. It's behavior. Consistent behavior, repeated over time in an environment that makes a behavior easy and automatic. You don't need to be a genius. You need to build the habit. And that's exactly what these 60 days are doing. You're not becoming a different person. You're building a different environment. You're setting up the automatic transfer. You're auditing the leaks. You're learning the 3-category check. You're practicing the 48-hour pause. You're making the small, consistent moves that, over time, become the identity of someone who is financially stable. That identity, I'm the kind of person who has an emergency fund, changes everything. It changes how you respond to stress. It changes how you make decisions. It changes a phone buzz from a horror movie jump scare into just a notification. Let's do a final check-in with Maya. Day 60. Maya opens her emergency fund account. $623. She started with $47 in savings and a lot of anxiety. She set up the $5 a day auto transfer. She canceled 3 subscriptions. She sold the earbuds for $35. She redirected $37 a week from food delivery fees and convenience store runs. She picked up 1 extra ship per week for 5 weeks. She called her phone carrier. She did not do everything perfectly. There was a week in the middle where she ordered delivery 3 times because things got hard at work and she was exhausted and she needed something to feel easy. She put $11 back in from what she would have spent on a purchase she paused and didn't make. She didn't abandon the plan. She adjusted and kept moving. And now she has $623 in an account she cannot see from her main banking screen, named something that makes her feel like touching it will be breaking a rule. She has not had an emergency in those 60 days. But next Tuesday, when something comes up and she will not be reaching for a credit card. She will not be calling someone for help. She will not be staring at her phone in a parking lot with that feeling. She'll just handle it. That's the whole point. Here's what I want you to do right now, not tomorrow. Right now, open a new savings account. Ally, Marcus, SoFi, Capital One 360, whatever works for you. Rename it. Set up the smallest automatic transfer you can, $3 a day, $5 a day, $25 a week, and let it run. Then come back here and comment, day one done, and your starting number, not your balance, not your full financial picture, just your starting number for the fund. 0 is a valid starting number. That's where Maya started. Because the community you're building this alongside matters. The people reading those comments, seeing that others are on day one too, that is a form of accountability. That works. Not shame, not competition, just solidarity. You are not alone in that parking lot. And 60 days from now, you're going to be in a very different place. Let's go.